Hey, I'm Jim, and I'm going to be showing you some grinder maintenance today on this E65S. So what you're going to need is a Torx bit screwdriver or a flathead screwdriver. You're also going to need a couple of cleaning brushes. I like to use a steel brush, but a pastry brush is probably more readily available, so I'm going to show you with both. And you're going to need some grinding tablets, aka grinds. So the first thing that I'm going to show you how to do is how to do your daily cleaning with the grinds. So first things first, we're going to close the hopper up. We're going to grab our portafilter and we're going to empty the chamber in here. So we're just removing all of the coffee that's in there currently. Now we have a more or less empty chamber, which means that we can now take the hopper off. And you do this like so. You simply twist anti-clockwise and it should click out of place, and then you can remove it. And if you look inside there, you'll see that there's not too much coffee. So you want to put about a capful of grinds into your grinder chamber, like so. So in order to carry out the next step, we're going to need to put the hopper back onto the grinder. As you can see, when I do this, the screen comes back on, which means that the grinder is now operational. And we're just going to grind those grinds through. Great, all done. Now we're going to put through 1 or 2 shots of coffee to just clear out the last of those grinds. And there you have it. So that's that for your daily clean. And now I'm going to talk you through how to clean the clump crusher. So your clump crusher is located sort of around here in your grinder. In order to get to it, you need to take this top collar off, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. First thing you need to do is to close your hopper, stop the coffee flowing through there, and you're going to grind out what's left in the chamber to clear it out. Nice little bit. Cool. Now our chamber is empty and we can remove the hopper by twisting it anti-clockwise. There you go. I'm going to do this with a flathead screwdriver. You'll notice that there's 2 screws in the middle at the top here. You basically need to loosen those up a few turns. Don't take them out because they might get lost. So I'm just going to give it 4 or 5 turns. So once you've loosened those 2 screws, you'll notice that the center part of the collar is a little loose. That's good, that's exactly what we want. You'll also notice that there's a little rubber ring on the inside. If it's dirty, take it out, give it a clean, put it straight back in, or keep it somewhere safe so that you don't lose it. The next step is to twist the inner part of the collar anti-clockwise, and now we can remove the top section of the grinder. We can now see in here the clump crusher and the anti-static plate. I'm going to remove those now to show you. And there we have them. So you'll notice that these are sort of caked in coffee. We're simply just going to give them a wipe with either some blue roll or a dry rag or something. And that's it clean. The next thing you need to make sure is that the clump crusher is straight. If it's a little bit bent, you can just simply bend it back into shape. And now we're going to put them back in. Always remember that the anti-static plate, i.e. this metal piece, goes closest to the center of the grinder, and the clump crusher goes closest to you. So the next step is part of your deep clean, which should be done approximately once a week. So you can clean your clump crusher as part of this deep clean, which we've already covered. So we're just going to simply remove that. The next step is to remove the top burrs from the machine. And you'll notice that there's 3 screws, similar to the 2 screws that we loosened off before on the top collar, and they're just located on the inside of the grinder here. I'm just going to loosen those off. Once again, I'm not going to remove them completely. I'm just going to do 4 or 5 turns, just to loosen that top burr. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to simply twist it clockwise and remove the top burr like so. And now you can see your bottom burr in the grinder. And we can give this a clean as well. So I'm going to use a wire brush because it's a little bit more effective, a little bit quicker, but you can just as easily make use of a pastry brush. It might just take you a little longer. And that's your top burr set clean. We're going to put that to one side, and now we're going to clean inside the chamber. Okay, cool. Now we're going to clean the bottom burr set. We're going to need our pastry brush and a vacuum cleaner. And we're simply going to use both at the same time. We're going to try and loosen up what coffee we've got in the bottom burrs there, and we're going to suck it up with this hoover. And that is basically the extent of the cleaning that you're going to need to do. Now we're going to put the grinder back together, and it's basically the same process but in reverse. So we're just going to go through that now. Firstly, we're going to put our top burr set back on. Stick it on over the screws, twist it back anti-clockwise into place, and then tighten the screws. You want to do the screws tight enough so that the burrs don't move about in place. Just like so. Now we're going to put our clump crusher and anti-static plate back in. Remember, the anti-static plate goes closest to the burrs. Just like that. Cool. And the last part of this process is just putting the top collar back on. So we're going to line it up so that the numbers are at the front of the machine. It should just go back on. Make sure that the inner collar is in the anti-clockwise position whilst putting this back on, otherwise it won't fit. And then when it's on, you can twist it clockwise and do the 2 screws up. Once again, you don't want this inner piece to be moving around, so make sure you do the screws up fairly tight. And lastly, we can put our hopper back on. And that's it. That's how you clean your grinder. So now we're going to talk about how to calibrate your grinder. By now you should know how to empty the chamber of any coffee. So we're just going to go straight on to the next step, and we're going to remove the hopper, which is already closed, by the way. The next step is pretty similar to how we clean the grinder, and we need to remove this top collar. So we're going to loosen off these 2 screws. Twist the inner part anti-clockwise and lift and remove the top section of the grinder. In order to calibrate the machine, you'll notice that there's this black tab. What this does is this releases this entire section. So, for example, if you wanted the grind to be a little bit coarser, but you were at the limit on this side and you couldn't move it any further, what you could do is you could press this tab in, lift the entire piece off, move it a little bit more towards the center, and just put it back on there, like so. And now you have more room to adjust your grind setting. And that's how to calibrate your grinder, and now we just need to put it back together. So we're going to get our top section, line up the numbers at the front, twist the inner section clockwise, and tighten the screws. And finally, put the hopper back on. Twist it into place. And that's how you calibrate your grinder.